Have you ever been in that spot where you've poured everything into a pitch for a huge deal and it just falls flat? It's a terrible feeling, and you're definitely not alone. Well, today we're diving into something called spin selling. It's a method that comes from some massive research, and it explains exactly why old school sales tactics just don't cut it for big, important deals. And more importantly, it shows us what the best of the best do instead. Honestly, this is a total game changer.
Yeah, we've all been there, right? You do all the prep, you rehearse, you deliver a pitch you think is amazing, and you get crickets. It seems like the bigger the stakes, the less effective those traditional closing techniques become. It's incredibly frustrating. But the reason why is probably not what you think. It has nothing to do with being a more aggressive closer. It's all about learning to ask smarter questions.
So, where does all this insight come from? It's from Neil Rackham's incredible book, Spin Telling. And look, this isn't just one guy's opinion or some clever theory. This is the real deal. It's based on a massive 12-year study that analyzed, get this, over 35,000 actual sales calls. So what we're talking about here is an evidence-based strategy that shows what the most successful salespeople are actually doing out in the wild. So what did all that research actually find? Well, it uncovered this fundamental shift in approach. The absolute best salespeople, they don't just show up and pitch features and benefits. Instead, they guide their customers on a journey of discovery. Spin selling isn't a bunch of cheesy tactics. It's a whole new way of thinking. It's about transforming from a pitcher into a genuine problem solver. And the whole method is built around this simple, powerful acronym, SPIN. Each of these letters stands for a specific type of question, and they're designed to be asked in a logical sequence. Now, you shouldn't think of this as some rigid script you have to memorize. It's more like a roadmap, a framework that helps you uncover your customers' needs and build value in a way that feels totally natural. All right, let's open up this toolkit and see what's inside. We're going to break down each of these 4 question types one by one, because really understanding how they connect and build on each other, well, that's the absolute key to making this whole thing work. Okay, first up, we have S for situation questions. These are really the basics. They help you get the lay of the land to understand the context. You're asking things like, so what kind of equipment are you currently using? Or how many people are on this team? You're just gathering the facts. But, and this is a big but, you've got to be careful with these, as we're about to see. So here's what's so interesting. Rackham's research found that the top salespeople actually ask fewer situation questions. Why? Because hitting a client with a ton of basic questions they feel you should already know, like you see on the left, is boring. It can even be annoying. The real secret is to do your homework. That way, you can ask a smart, well-researched question like the ones on the right. It immediately shows you've put in the effort and you respect their time. Okay, once you've got the basic situation down, you pivot. You move on to P for problem questions. And this, right here, is where the real selling begins. The goal is to move past the simple facts and start uncovering your customers' challenges, their dissatisfactions, their pain points. You're asking questions like, so are you fully satisfied with how reliable your current system is? These questions start to uncover what the book calls implied needs. This is a perfect way to see that shift in action. You go from pure fact-finding to pain-finding. See how different that feels? One is just collecting data. The other is opening the door to a real conversation about what's actually not working. And the research showed a clear, direct connection between how many problem questions a salesperson asked and how successful they were. Now we get to the I for implication questions. And let me tell you, this is the absolute powerhouse of the whole spin model, especially when you're dealing with big, complex sales. Implication questions take a problem that you've just found and you dig deeper. You explore the consequences, the ripple effects. You're asking, okay, so when that issue happens, how does it affect your team's productivity? This is how you transform a small headache into a serious business problem. This is how you build urgency. Just look at this comparison. A simple problem question might get you a simple yes or no, but a powerful implication question, that's different. It connects that little workflow issue to the big picture business consequences, things like launch dates and revenue targets. See, you're not telling them it's a big deal. You're asking the questions that lead them to realize it for themselves. And that is so critical when you need to justify the cost of your solution later on. And that brings us to the final step, N for need payoff questions. So, once the problem is clear and feels urgent, you flip the conversation. Instead of focusing on the pain, you get the customer to start thinking about the solution and the positive outcome. You ask things like, so how would it help if you could get rid of that reliability problem for good? Or what kind of impact would it have if you could cut down your team's manual data entry? I mean, just look at the difference here. On the left, you have the standard seller-focused pitch. You're just telling them a benefit. But on the right, you have a customer-focused question. You're inviting them to tell you the benefit. And when your customer is the one saying, wow, if we could increase our efficiency, we could finally take on those bigger clients, they are literally selling themselves on your solution. And that is 1,000 times more powerful than you saying it. Okay, so you've worked through the whole SPIN sequence, but you might be wondering, what about those classic objections? You know, the ones about price or timing or needing some specific feature. Well, this is where spin selling reveals one of its most incredible secrets. This right here, this is a huge aha moment for so many people. The very best salespeople get way fewer objections than everyone else. And it's not because they have some secret list of clever comebacks. It's because the process they use, the spin process, makes most objections totally irrelevant before they can even be raised. So here's the logic. It's beautiful, really. You followed the sequence. You found a real nagging problem. Then you used implication questions to build the pain, to make it so big that the cost of doing nothing seems way too high. And then you use need payoff questions to get the customer to spell out, in their own words, the value of fixing it. So by the time you actually talk about your solution, it's not some unwelcome pitch. It's the exact answer to a problem they are now desperate to solve. Right. So the key takeaway is this. Objections usually aren't a sign that your customer is difficult. They're a symptom. They're a sign that we as salespeople presented our solution way too early, before the need was really clear and important to the customer. Spin selling is basically the cure for that exact mistake. Okay, this all sounds great in theory, but the big question is, how do you actually start doing this on your very next sales call? Well, the book gives us a really simple, practical framework for turning all this knowledge into an actual skill. It all comes down to this simple 3-step cycle. First, you plan. You never go in cold. Before the call, think about your customer, their business, and brainstorm the kinds of problems your solution is built to solve. Then you do. During the call, make a conscious effort to ask questions and follow that SPIN sequence. And finally, and this is probably the most important part, review. Take 5 minutes right after the call. What questions really hit home? Where did you miss a chance to dig deeper with an implication question? It's the cycle of plan, do, and review that turns this from a concept into a habit. And that really leaves us with one final, powerful question to think about. The heart of spin selling is a mindset shift. It's about stop thinking about what you sell and start thinking about what problems you solve. So as you get ready for that next big call, don't open up your slide deck first. Start with this question right here. Because when you truly focus on solving a critical problem for your customer, you'll find that the selling part almost takes care of itself. Thanks for tuning in to this explainer.